Okay, welcome everybody to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is September 24th, 2020. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, and you then put in the conference ID number, which is 430-231-458, and then hit the pound. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. We will now have a roll call of all members to give us permission to start the meeting. And please give the name that you use when you sign all those checks. So we'll start with Mr. Veach.
David H. Veach, present.
Paul?
Paul C. Semple, present.
Happy?
Happy, you may need to press *6 to unmute your phone.
Well, I think we'll go on. We know Happy is here because she's been talking. Buck.
James M. Upson.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, present.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson, present.
Megan.
Megan Story, present.
And I am David S. Nixon, and I have the great honor to be the chairman of this distinguished panel of citizens. We also have with us Sarah B. Clark. Sarah is a town employee, and she is the PPO for the town, which is the Principal Permitting Officer, as well as the Executive Secretary for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And she is joining us today from Studio S, which is located in Eastham, Massachusetts. Before we go on, I have a public service announcement, and I was asked to do this by the chair of our Board of Selectmen, Shireen Davis, as well as our town manager, Jill Goldsmith. They are very concerned that a lot of people have not filled out the census. So if anybody out there is listening and has not done this, please do it. Failure to do so could cost the town some dollars and cents for not cooperating, shall we say. So you have until September 30th to do that. Let's review the procedural steps. And I should say any non-board members who would like to participate in this meeting can call in via the phone and give their name and their last 4 digits of their phone number for identification purposes. To begin with, the hearing notice will be read by Sarah. Then the representative for the appeal or the application will make a presentation. Then after that, anyone in favor of the appeal will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, I would read any and all letters that the board had received, whether they be for it, against it, or just general comments. Following that, anyone who wishes to speak against it or has a specific question may do so. And I should say you do this as well as those who wish to speak in favor by signaling to Sarah on the screen that you would like to speak. Should there be any negative or questioning, there could be some rebuttal testimony. Then we would have the board members direct questions to anyone who had presented any information. Following that, we would then close the public hearing and go into deliberation. During deliberation, we do not take questions or participation from members of the public. It is possible a member of the board could ask someone a specific question, and that would introduce them into the discussion. We would then vote on the appeal or application, and the voters today are Dave Veach, Paul Semple, Happy, Buck, and myself. To be successful in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you need not a simple majority, which is simple 3. You need a super majority, which is 4. 4 out of 5 must vote in favor for you to be successful. And because we're still doing this virtually, all votes will be taken by a roll call, and it's kind of tedious for some people, and I apologize for that. So at the end of the meeting, any other business that might come up, we will do just that. So having said all of that, we now have a request for a continuance. So Sarah, I believe it is 20-054.
And as a reminder to all people calling in or being live on the meeting, please just remember to have yourself muted and your camera off unless you are presenting. Application number 20-054, Bobby Joe Pippin Art and Randy Arndt, care of James M. Norcross, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 26 Hardings Beach Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 9C, Block 47, Lot 1C. The applicant seeks to install a fence within the Conservancy District. The proposed fencing is allowed by special permit under Section 4A3A of the Protective Bylaw. The lot contains 22,422 square feet in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 8D2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. We did receive a request from the applicant's representative to continue this hearing to November 19th in order to be reviewed by the Conservation Commission.
Okay. I'll quickly go through the list of participants, and if you have any question, please state so, or concern, question or concern. Dave Veach.
No, I have no questions or concerns, Dave.
Paul.
Paul Semple, I have no questions or concerns.
Happy. Well, Happy, if you do, we'll come back to you. Buck.
Buck, no questions.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, no questions.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson, no questions.
Megan.
Megan Story, no questions.
And I have no questions. I might mention that when I was out for my site visit and Mr. Thompson was there also, there were no stakes. And in fact, the property owner didn't know where to put them. So I'm not surprised if this happened, and hopefully they'll get their act together by November 19th. Paul, would you make a motion, please?
Yes, this is Paul Semple. I'll move to grant the continuance to November 19th.
David Veach seconds.
Okay, then I'll ask for a roll call of the voters. Mr. Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Semple?
Semple votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
I vote yes. And Happy, are you there?
Happy is still on the call. Happy, on your cell phone, hit *6 to unmute.
Did that happen?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, Sarah, I think we should move forward.
So we'll need to pick an alternate voting member for today.
Yes. Who's
Um, If you give me a second, I can see, I believe Megan would be next in line for alternate voting for today's hearings if Happy is unable to get the connection back.
Okay, I don't think we need to start that yet, Sarah, because 4 votes was enough.
4 is enough, yes.
So I think we'll move ahead. If Happy's unable to vote on our next application, then we will have Megan do it. And we'll let you know, Megan. Okay, so Sarah, would you go to 20046, please?
Application number 20-046, Geonova Evans Family Trust, care of Thad Eldridge, 1038 Main Street, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 2 Pondview Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 11D, Block 31, Lot 4. The applicant proposes to construct a detached garage with a second floor accessory dwelling unit, ADU, on a non-conforming lot, which requires the grant of a special permit. The lot is non-conforming and that it contains 13,463 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9, and Section 8D2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. This was continued from August 27th, 2020.
Okay, Thad, are you there?
I am. Good afternoon.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For the record, Thad Eldridge, east southeast. Sarah, if you wouldn't mind pulling up one of the plans. So Mr. Evans owns the property at the corner of Woodcarver and Pondview Lane. He currently has a 2-bedroom dwelling. He's proposing to take down the oversized shed that's on the property and put a garage on. And while considering this, he also wanted to go forward with an affordable dwelling unit. The proposed structure is going to conform to all the setbacks. He's already signed all the paperwork for the ADU. We were before the Board of Health. They had some questions regarding the septic and the future sewer. So we continued so that we could answer those questions. They've been satisfied. And so hopefully you will be as well. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I think it would be good if you ran through our criteria.
Thank you. One of those days.
That's all right.
So the adequacy of the size of the site, the building coverage will increase from 1221 square feet to 1785 square feet. The total proposed coverage is 13.3%, where 15% is allowed. The existing dwelling that will remain is non-conforming, but the proposed detached structure conforms to all the dimensional setbacks. The compatibility of the size of the proposed structure, in total, this will not be larger than the larger homes in the neighborhood, but it will be larger than the smaller. Looking at some of the homes in the neighborhood, we have 1,000, 1,400 square feet, 1,500, 800. But on the larger size, we have over 2,000 square feet. So the 1785 total will be somewhere in the middle. There's no increase in the non-conforming nature of the structures or uses. So the proposal will have minimal impact on neighboring properties. Any views that would be seen are currently blocked by the large tree in the middle of the property, which did sustain some damage from the tornadoes. The nearby wetlands are more than 100 feet from the property, and stormwater runoff will be contained on the site. The proposed building is a 1.5-story barn with a rear dormer, and it's designed to be complementary to the existing dwelling. The views over the property are currently blocked. The proposed uses are residential, compatible with the neighborhood. The property is served with a Title V septic system. It was constructed at a time where over-design was required, so there's sufficient capacity within the septic. We've requested a variance from the Board of Health, and they've granted that. We are going to increase the bedroom count on the property without installing an IA because sewer is so close. And that's with the understanding that he will connect to the sewer as soon as possible. We're not anticipating an impact on the traffic flow. Noise and litter should be fine. The utilities are adequate. It's not a formula business, and we're not in the floodplain. Alrighty, so now if there are questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Ted. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? If so, please take the opportunity now to signal to Sarah that you would like to speak.
I see no one on the meeting that wants to speak.
Okay, then I will read the correspondence. We have a letter dated September 21st. It's from the town of Chatham Board of Health. It was written to Mr. Evans. On September 14th, 2020, at the hearing for the above property, the Board of Health voted to approve the following variances. The owners are granted a variance from the Chatham Board of Health nitrogen loading regulation in order to add a third bedroom to this property in anticipation of the sewer availability. The approval of the aforementioned item is with the following conditions. Number one, the applicants should restrict this property to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicants shall submit a copy of the executed deed restriction to the Health Division. Number two, the applicant shall have the existing Title V septic system inspected and pumped prior to construction of a third bedroom. And number three, the property is connected to the town sewer within 180 days of being so ordered. Please note that condition number one requires you to record the deed restriction and signed covenant at the Registry of Deeds with a request for the insertion of your current deed of a marginal reference to the covenant. Please complete the enclosed covenant and deliver the original to the Barnstable County. Their phone number, so and so. A copy of the recorded form must be submitted to the Health Department. Have any more questions? Let me know. It's signed by Judith Giorgio, who is the health agent for the town. And that is the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
Seeing none, I believe we can proceed.
Okay, so we will now have questions from the board. We'll start with Dave Veach.
David Veach has no questions.
Paul?
Paul Semple, the only question I have is one of our criteria is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. There wouldn't be any windsurfers using any of this property, would there?
There currently is a windsurfer occupying the property.
Oh, my Lord. All right, well, I'll waive that issue. I have no further questions.
See, Paul, I consider that a plus. One of my charming children loves to windsurf. It's the way to go. I'm not too sure where he's going, but anyway. So, Happy, are you with us now? I guess not.
So
Sarah?
Happy is still with us on the call, but she's muted and I can't unmute her.
Okay, so until such time as you've figured that or helped her do that, I will consider that Megan is the voter and not ask Happy any more questions. So if she becomes unmuted, you'll let me know, okay?
So the only option is for me to call her back into the meeting.
Okay.
Or she would hang up and I'd call her back in and she just leaves it off of mute.
Okay, do you want to do that?
I can do that right now.
Okay, I'll wait until you've done that before I proceed.
Sarah, I'm really sorry.
No, it's okay, Happy. You're back on the meeting. Just leave yourself
there?
off of. Yeah, I'm here. Just leave yourself off of mute.
So Happy, this is Dave. Do you have any questions on application 20-0462 Pondview Lane?
Am I off of mute now?
You're live.
I do not have any questions.
Okay, very good. Buck,
Buck has no questions.
Dennis,
Excuse me, Dennis Sullivan. I have a couple of questions. One, is Mr. Evans a registered voter in the town of Chatham? I wonder if Thad knows. And two, does Mr. Evans have a driver's license in Massachusetts? And if so, what's the address on it?
Well, it's my understanding that this is his full-time residence, so I would
Okay,
assume.
so he is living there full-time?
He is.
Yes, Mr. Sullivan, he has signed the affidavit of residence. The assessor's records indicate that 2 Pondview Lane is his primary residence. Therefore, we proceeded with this application based on the information provided.
The only reason I raised it was because the last time we had the lady who was residing basically in Florida, but was claiming a Chatham residence also. So I just wanted to clear if there were any issues involving the residency, but there appears to be none, so I'm fully satisfied. Thank you.
Dave Thompson,
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions.
Megan,
Megan, you just have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. No, I have no questions.
okay, and I have no questions. So Paul, motion?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Well, first of all, we have to go into deliberations.
Oh, all right. Excuse me. All right.
Just ahead of us a little bit here, Paul.
My deliberations would be, I see no problems with this. It seems to me it satisfies all the criteria.
Paul, we have to go into it. We have to close the meeting and.
All right, let me go back 2 steps. This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
You didn't have a 2 martini lunch, did you, Paul?
Jeez, I should have.
David Veach seconds the motion.
Okay, then I'll take a roll call for voting. Mr. Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Happy?
Happy votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, now deliberations. Okay, Paul, the floor is yours.
My deliberations remain the same. I think this certainly satisfies the criteria, and I would move to accept it
Okay, Happy?
at such time as we do that motion.
Okay. Happy?
Happy agrees.
Buck?
Buck agrees.
Dennis?
Dennis Sullivan, I agree.
Dave Thompson?
Dave Thompson agrees, sir.
Megan?
Megan Story agrees.
Dave Veach?
Yes, David Veach agrees. Nice to add this to the role of ADUs in the town.
Okay, and I certainly agree. Sarah, did we want some more specifics on the criteria for this, or is that enough?
No, so you discussed the criteria that is
Mhm.
required under the bylaw.
Mhm.
The ADU does meet the requirements of the ADU bylaw as far as square footage, number of bedrooms. It is fully compliant as to our bylaw, but does require a special permit from the zoning board because it is on a non-conforming lot.
Okay, very good. Okay, then I think it's time to vote. Paul?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Okay. Mr. Veach?
Yes, David Veach. votes yes.
No, well, second at first, please.
Second, okay. We're confused here still. All right, David Veach seconds Mr.
Okay.
Semple's motion.
Okay, David Veach, do you think we need to have any kind of conditions on this?
I think the only conditions might be the usual one about construction vehicles to be, to remain on the property unless with permission of the butters.
Does anyone on the board feel that the conditions should be more than that? I'm not hearing anyone say anything, so I'll take that as a no. Okay, so then with that one condition, we will now commence voting. Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Happy?
Happy votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a 5-0 vote. Thank you very much, staff.
Thank you so much. Sorry to start off the meeting with confusion.
Well, that's all right. As you can see.
I'll take the blame for it, though.
Simple.
Hopefully you make up for it when I'm gone.
Okay. Sarah, we're ready for.
So our next application is application number 20-050, Ernest A. Whalen III and Deborah A. Whalen, care of Rick Roy, 123A Queen Anne Road, Harwich, Mass. 02645, owner of property located at 43 Shattuck Lane, also shown in the town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15C, Block 14, Lot 4. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 19-063 granted on December 19th, 2019, which allowed for the demolition of the existing garage and construction of a new garage. The applicant now seeks to modify special permit number 19-063 to allow for the new garage to be placed in an alternate location. The proposed garage will be non-conforming and that it will be located 2 feet from the northerly abutter and 2 feet from the southerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,744 square feet, 12.1%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,858 square feet, 12.9%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming, and that it contains 14,451 square feet of buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required, and contains 28,800 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D, 2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
And who do we have presenting this? Is it Rick Roy?
It is Rick Roy.
Well, hello, Rick Roy. How are you?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm hoping that my presentation is shorter than the advertisement. So, my name is Rick Roy from Rick Roy Construction, and this came before the board and was approved. And we had to go through a little bit of work on this with the neighbors. So in an effort to try to shorten the presentation, I think that because it was approved, I don't know that I have to go through the 10 criteria as whether it's more detrimental to the neighborhood. What we did in this particular case is because we wanted to be proactive instead of reactive. Our office actually sent out to all of the abutters, there were 13, a site plan and a letter explaining what was happening and what we wanted to do by moving it back 10 feet. Of the 13 letters that we sent out, 2 with it to the town, so that took 2 off the list because we didn't get an answer back from the town. 1 was not returned, and the other 8 were returned with positive answers to allow us to be able to move the building back 10 feet. So we're hoping that with that, it would be an easy thing to approve. And the only other thing that was brought up by the Mr. Whalen was that on the end of the garage, okay, we show a double hung window. And he made the comment that, well, he really has no way of getting to the backside of his garage to mow the lawn. So could he change that window to a 9-light door, which I have provided a drawing for, so that he can actually go through his garage to get to the other property, because the garage actually is pretty much up against the property lines. And that's basically it, and I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
Seeing none, I believe we can proceed.
Okay, correspondence. Our first is from the Town of Chatham Board of Health. Judith Giorgio writes on 9/22, I have reviewed the plan for a garage. The garage will not increase the septic flow of the property, nor will it encroach on said system. I have no concerns at this time. And then, as Rick mentioned, a letter was sent out by Mr. and Mrs. Whalen asking for support. So I'm simply going to read the bottom that was signed by the letter returners, and I'll give you the dates. The first one was June 18th, 2020. This is from Mariah Anderson. I, Mariah Anderson, approve the decision to move the proposed garage back 10 feet from the original location, and her address is 41 Mill Pond Lane. Then we have Tara Doherty, and she writes on the same date, I, Tara Doherty, approve the decision to move the proposed garage back 10 feet from the original location, and her address is 57 Mill Pond Lane. Then we have Clay Rosenberg and Andrea Line Flinick, and they write the same on the same date. We, and the two parties I just mentioned, approve the decision to move the proposed garage back 10 feet. And did I give you their address? I don't think so. 21 Shattuck Lane was their address. Then we'll have Charles Manker at 67 Gristmill Lane. And he writes the same thing, same date. I, Charles, approve the decision to move it back 10 feet. And the next is from Eileen Woolley. Eileen Woolley is at 38 Gristmill Lane. And she said, I approve the decision to move the proposed garage, not barn, back 10 feet from the original site depicted in the ZBA approved location. Then we have, I guess, this is from Jeff Palmer. And I am not too sure what Mr. Palmer's address might be. But at any rate, he wrote on August 11th that when the revised plan is presented to the ZBA, we have no objection to the proposed change in garage siting as shown on the revision dated March 30th. Good luck with the project once all necessary approvals are secured. Rick Roy, do you know what this gentleman's address is?
It is 10 Gristmill Lane.
All right, thank you. Oh yeah, there it is at the bottom, if I continue to look. And then we have the last one. It's from Marianne Renaud and Ronald Renaud, and their address is 53 Gristmill Lane, and they again approve the decision to move the garage back. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Are there folks out there in the audience who wish to either speak against or have a specific question? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
Based on the number of people in the meeting, I don't believe anyone wishes to speak.
Okay. All right, so we will now have questions from the board. We'll start with Megan.
I have no questions.
Dave Thompson.
I have no questions, sir.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, no questions.
Buck.
Buck, no questions.
Happy.
Happy, no questions.
Paul.
All no questions.
Dave Veach.
David Veach has no questions.
And I have no questions. Okay, Paul, a motion, please.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
David Veach seconds.
Okay, I'll take a roll call on that. Happy, you in favor of going into
I am.
deliberation? Okay,
Happy is
Buck?
in favor.
Buck?
Buck is in favor.
Okay, I am. How about Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
And Paul?
Sample votes yes.
Okay, deliberations. Dennis, why don't you start the deliberations?
Dennis Sullivan, if I were voting, which I'm not, but if I were, I would certainly vote in favor of this. It meets all the standards that we require, having been already voted in the past, so I would be in favor of it.
Okay. Buck?
Well, with the excellent reply from all the neighbors, I don't see any other choice but to support.
Happy?
I support it.
Paul? Paul?
Yes, this is Paul Semple. I think it makes sense to move it in this direction, given that there's no access from Gristmill Lane. So I certainly support it. It seems to me it satisfies the criteria.
Dave Veach?
Yes, I'm in agreement. It's certainly, relocating garage is certainly not substantially more detrimental than previous.
Megan?
I agree with everyone else and I support it as well.
Dave Thompson?
I agree with everyone. I would support it if I was voting, and the west elevation showing the door makes that look a lot nicer. Thank you.
I think we're ready to vote, Paul.
All right. This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted under the same terms and conditions as applied in our prior approval.
And did you feel there was any necessary conditions that we should apply?
Nothing other than what we may have had in place at the beginning when we did this in the prior approval.
Okay, Sarah, did we put any conditions on this initially?
We had 3 specific conditions in regards to this initial application.
Mm-hmm.
There shall be no vehicle access to the new garage from Gristmill Lane, including during construction. Second condition, the section of the stockade fencing shall be installed at the entrance to the garage to shield the southerly abutter's house from car lights entering and exiting the garage. And the final condition was planting shall be installed on the southerly and Gristmill Lane sides to screen the garage.
Okay, well, I can't see that we should change any of those, and we'll just leave those as they are. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay, then, Paul, you voted yes, I believe, because we now time to vote on this whole thing.
That's correct.
Okay, Dave Veach?
Yes, Veach votes yes.
Okay, Happy?
Happy votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our next application is
Yeah.
application number 20-051, Darkwater LLC, owner of property located at 17 Seaview Street, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15E, Block 4, Lot 14. The applicant seeks a dimensional variance for a covered porch located 4.6 feet from the road where a 5-foot setback is required. A dimensional variance is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the Chatham Protective Bylaw. In the alternative, under application number 20-052, the applicant seeks to modify special permit number 19-005, granted on February 14th, 2019, for the installation of a new foundation and construction of additions. The approved dwelling was to be located 5.4 feet from the road. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 19-005 to allow for the front porch to be located 5 feet from the road where a 5-foot setback is required. The lot is non-conforming and that it contains 14,299 square feet on a split zone lot within the GB1 and R20 zoning districts. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9, and Section 8D2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is hear from the applicant as to which direction he or she wishes to go. Either the number 1, dimensional variance, or number 2, the special permit. So who do we have from Darkwater?
Hi, my name is David Burney. I'm representing Darkwater.
Okay, David, which way would you like to go?
We would prefer to do the dimensional variance.
Okay, why don't you make that presentation then?
Okay. So the reason we're seeking a dimensional variance is simple. I made a mistake during construction. The entire building, as Sarah said, was approved about a year and a half ago. And during construction on the front right corner, I made a mistake and I didn't get it surveyed by an engineer when we put the footings in, and we were a little bit over the line. And as you can see in the photo that she has up, that triangle is how far we're encroaching. Would you like me to go through the criteria? I mean, the building met the criteria the last time. This is the only issue.
Okay, what you need to do is go through the criteria for the variance, which is very different from the special permit.
Okay, then I made two mistakes today. I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, so the things that you need to tell us about what's special about the topography. By granting a variance, are we somehow doing anything that goes against the grain for what makes sense for the town? And we need to hear about what the hardship is. So
Okay.
why don't you talk about the topography and the hardship, okay?
Sure. So nothing changes on the topography. The look and the elevations and everything is the same as the building. It's just that the porch was installed a little bit bigger. That photo right there that Sarah has up, part of the problem was the trim kept growing in order to give it the proper look, to give it the proper sizing. And I should have stopped that and had an engineer come out and pin that corner. And that was where I made the mistake. As far as the hardship goes, it's going to cost me a significant amount of money to cut this and to make it look right. It's also, and it's just my opinion, it takes away from the look of the front of the building. If I have to clip that corner, I'm going to have to clip the opposite corner to match. And, there's expense involved. I lose time. I have to go back to HPDC. And if it makes any difference, I will never make this mistake again. I won't make it again. So there's the hardship. There's a cost to me, and then the time. And currently the house is on the market, and we're trying not to hold that process up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as I understand it, you need 4/10 of a foot. Is that correct?
That's correct. 4/10 of a square foot.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's enough. I don't think we need to hear any more. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this variance? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
Seeing none, I believe we can proceed.
Okay, I'll read the correspondence, which consists of a note from Judith Georgia, the health agent for the town of Chatham, on 9/22. I have reviewed the plan to renovate the property. Our records indicate the existing dwelling is currently connected to municipal sewer. The plan as proposed will not add sewer flow to the property. I have no concerns. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
Seeing none, I believe we can proceed.
Okay, questions from the board. Let's start with Buck. Do you have any questions, Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Dennis?
Dennis Sullivan, no, I have no questions.
Dave Thompson?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Megan?
I also have no question.
Dave Veach.
Well, I do have a couple of questions to ask, and I'm just curious so I'm curious if, because he hasn't presented the alternative yet, whether it's necessary or not remains to be seen. But I'm curious as to whether the if the modification, if there were modification to the porch, the lower part of the porch, that corner that's extending into the setback, does that also need to take place up at the level of the roof, or is that projection allowed to take place? And Sarah, you might be able to answer this better than the applicant. I don't really know.
The projection would not be allowed to take place, so they'd have to nip the corner of the farmer's porch as well.
Of the roof as well. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's the only question I have. Thanks.
Okay. Paul, your question.
Paul Semple, I have no questions.
Happy, do you have any questions?
Happy, no questions.
And I have no questions. Paul, I think we can entertain a motion to go into deliberation.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
David Veach seconds.
Okay, I'll take a roll call on that. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Happy?
Happy votes yes.
Paul Semple?
Semple votes yes.
Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Let's start with Dave Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an unfortunate accident. It's a mistake, and I'm quite sure that Mr. Burney will never do it again. It's just unfortunate. That's all. And I would vote in favor of it.
Dennis?
Dennis Sullivan. I wish I had heard more about the uniqueness of this lot. It may, in fact, be a unique lot. I just don't have anything to verify that. So if I were voting at this point, I don't think I could support it, but I'm not voting, so that's good.
Megan?
If I were voting, I would vote to support it. I agree that it seems like it was a very, an innocent accident. And I do think that having spent some time on that lot through the years, I think the topography of it probably created some of the problem because it's not an easy place to build. So I feel for you, Mr. Burney, and I would support it if I were voting.
Buck?
This is a tough one, but I'd love to hear Mr. Semple's feedback before I comment, but I probably would support it if the rest of the members feel the same way.
Happy?
Well, because it's such a unique property and he did a beautiful job of creating that house there and not tearing it down and putting something inappropriate where something gorgeous and old was, I would probably cut him some slack and say it was a mistake. And I would hate to see the porch have a rather funky look with corners missing on both sides. So I'm inclined to vote for it.
Dave Veach?
Well, I think that I'm never in my time not still clear about this, but I do think that the statute allows us to apply the standards of shape and things like that to structures as well as the lot. That this is a situation where certainly it does create a hardship. It does not going to substantially take away from the intent of the bylaw were we to grant this variance. And I find under these circumstances that I can find that it meets the criteria for a variance, and I will support it.
Paul Semple?
This is Paul Semple. I agree with the concepts that Happy mentioned about what's being done with this property and the intent to preserve really an excellent looking property. It looks very nice. And I would elaborate a little bit more on the location of the property and its configuration and the fact that I think it is substantially different given the intersection that it's at and the prominence of the whole thing. So it's certainly borderline, but I think I will support the variance concept.
Okay, my stand is that topography, I think as Megan mentioned, this lot to me is quite different in that it falls off so sharply and at such a sharp angle that the topography is different. It really is different. As far as the hardship, I think the hardship is to the town. If we made Mr. Bernie change this, where we have to clip off 2 edges of the porch, and that includes the roof, this is going to look not so good. Right now, it's a huge addition to the downtown, and anybody who walks up and down Main Street, and we've had certainly a ton of them this summer, they've enjoyed looking at our downtown and the uniqueness of Mr. Bernie's house and the one next door, Miss Susanna Nickerson's. I would hate to see it changed in any way as to what's been done. Yeah, Mr. Bernie made a mistake. Well, we all make mistakes, so I know you're all going to be shocked, but this might be the 3rd variance in a row that I think I've approved. I don't know. I'm really slipping. I don't know, but I'm going to vote for it. So I know. So
Mr. Nixon, I would just like to mention to the board, because this is a historic property within the historic business district. During the hearings that we had for this property, originally there was actually a front porch on it and was removed at some point. We don't know when, but it was removed. So David was attempting to restore it to its former, probably 1800 look.
okay, thank you, Sarah. And it looks a lot better than it did before, that's for sure, with the porch. Okay, Paul, I think with all that, we don't really need to have even think about conditions. So how about a motion for a vote?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Okay, and here to remind everybody, we are approving the dimensional variance.
Beach is seconds.
Yes, okay, so we will now vote. Buck?
Buck supports it, and I'm glad to hear the good reasons from fellow members.
Happy?
I totally support it.
Mr. Semple?
Paul Semple approves.
You're slipping too, Paul. You're voting for these variances.
Yes, that's true. We've been running, as you mentioned, we've run a few of these in the last 2 or 3 times, but I think they've been justified.
Yep, they have been. Dave Veach?
Yes, I'm happy to see the softening of some of my fellow members here. No, Beach votes enthusiastically in support of this. Thank you.
Okay, well, and I'm certainly going to vote for it, but I must make a promise to myself to vote no on the next 5. So there you go. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Bernie. You've done a fantastic job. And as you heard, your good work is rewarded. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody. Lesson learned. I hope I'm not part of this trend in the future.
Okay.
So we will need a request for withdrawal of the special permit modification under application number 20-052 from the applicant.
Okay, great. I'll take care of that.
That would mean right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to withdraw application 20-52 for modification of special permit.
Okay. Any discussion at all? I didn't think so. Paul, would you make a motion, please?
I thought we just did that.
What? 052.
So the applicant in the alternative have requested a modification of the special permit where they would cut the deck and the roofing back. So we do need to withdraw that application if the board is okay with that, since they
Yep.
did just grant the variance.
Yeah, so I think that's what we heard from Mr. Bernie. Withdrawing it. Paul?
And this is Paul Semple. I'll move to grant the request to withdraw the request for special permit in this situation.
David Veach seconds.
Okay, so the roll call, Mr. Veach,
Veach votes yes.
Paul,
Semple votes yes.
Happy,
Happy votes yes.
Buck,
Buck votes yes.
and I vote yes. And that is that. Okay. Sarah, we got one left. 053.
Application number 20-053, John and Pamela Cummings, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 59 Hardings Lane, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14C, Block 31, Lot 22. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 20-019, granted on May 28, 2020, which allowed for the demolition of the existing dwelling and shed and the construction of a new dwelling. The applicant now seeks to modify special permit number 20-019 to allow for the construction of a new dwelling and pool house. The proposed dwelling and pool house will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration, and under the second accept clause of Section 6, Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 2,936 square feet, 9.7%, and the proposed building coverage is 3,024 square feet, 9.98%, or 10% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming, and then it contains 30,300 square feet, or 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D, 2B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Riley, are you there?
I am here, Mr. Chairman. How are you today?
Well, we're just giving away variances right and left, so.
Yeah, I know. This is my, why didn't I get one the last time I was there? That's what I want to know.
It's the wrong day, that's all.
Oh, yeah, okay. I understand. Anyway, I represent John and Pam Cummings, and you had, as town reported back on June 3rd, you got the town issued a special permit granting the demolition of the dump that's currently located on this lot in return for the construction of a beautiful Karen Kempton design. After that was approved, the Cummings had conversations with Rick Roy, super salesman that he is, and Karen Kempton, and they decided to make changes. So Karen's on the call, and I'd ask her to explain briefly sort of the thinking that went into the Cummings family change here.
Hi, this is Karen Kempton, architect. What you see on the screen now is what
You have to speak up, Karen. I can't hear you.
Riley, I can't hear you.
Can you guys hear her?
So
No.
Karen, there's a lot of background noise and we're not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh.
Just walk me through what plans you want to see.
What you have up on the screen right now is the approved plan, and as you can see behind the garage, we had a covered porch and a screen porch. Pam wanted a screen porch, and her husband John wanted the covered porch with a fireplace and TV and bar area. So we tried to combine the two areas into one. However, they became small and not necessarily very utilized. We kept it near the house because of the adjacent powder room there. So then we had the idea that the pool was something that they were considering more. And we figured that John's open covered porch area could be located as the pool house. And in that pool house, we would also have the powder room for the pool. So by disconnecting his covered porch, we were able to make Pam's covered screen porch larger, which is that area. If you go back to what you had there, the plan, right? That covered porch is off of the dining room area. So we got a bigger covered porch because we utilized what we had approved as a covered porch before. So now it's a screen porch, and the separate pool house became John's area for bar and TV and a separate powder room for the pool.
Thank you, Karen. So that the structure as previously approved, facing the street does not change, and the most visible aspect of the house from the neighbor's point of view faces to the left, and that aspect is not changing. So the only change is a reduction in building coverage on the right-hand side of the building, as Karen just pointed out. And then but the building coverage does not change. It was 3,024 square feet with the porches that Karen described, and that area has now been translated into the pool house, and so so the building coverage remains the same. I'll be happy to run through the criteria, although it seems to me that we've already approved the house. It's really a minor modification here, and with that, happy to go whichever way you want, Mr. Chairman.
No need to go through the criteria. Thank you. So
that'd be our presentation.
Very good. Is there anyone in the audience today that would like to speak in favor of this? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
We have no one in the audience today.
Okay, then I'll read the correspondence, and it is from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health agent, Town of Chatham. She writes on 9/22, I reviewed the revised proposed plans for the new dwelling. Property will be connected to town sewer system, and the plan for 4 bedrooms is acceptable. A review of the pool house will be required to ensure that it does not meet the definition of a bedroom prior to construction. Okay, is there anyone out there who would like to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate to Sarah now.
We also have no one.
Okay. So, questions from the board. Davey?
The only thing I would just note, Dave, or ask is that in at least the materials that I have, I don't see any elevations or anything for the pool house. I'm not overly concerned about it, given the architect's skills and the taste and the existing the design that's proposed. But I didn't see any renderings of the pool house. Guess that's not a question, so but I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Well, we can have Karen to speak to it if you'd like.
Yeah, well, maybe just some assurance, assurance from Karen or Bill. Yeah.
Okay. Karen, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, it was designed. It's 12 by 15/8. I thought you had it, but I guess you don't. It has French doors on the pool side. On the back side, it has a fireplace. It is 12 feet deep, 15 feet wide, and it is about 12 feet to the ridge. So one side is all glass facing the pool. The side towards the backyard has the back side of the chimney, the fireplace, and then there's an open bar on the right-hand side.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other question, Dave?
No, I have no other.
Okay, Paul.
Paul Semple, I have no questions.
Happy.
Happy, no questions.
Buck.
Buck has no question.
Dennis.
Dennis Sullivan, no questions.
Dave Thompson.
Dave Thompson, no questions, sir.
Megan.
Megan Story, no questions.
And I have none. Okay, Paul?
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
David Veach, second.
Okay, Buck, how do you vote on that?
Buck votes yes.
Happy?
Happy votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Happy? What do you think of this?
I think it's quite splendid. It looks like it's going to be a perfect vacation or year-round home for these folks, and I think it stays within the neighborhood. So I would be inclined to vote for it.
Paul?
This is Paul Semple. Sounds like the War of the Porches to me. I think Karen must have been in a mediating session or two in order to come up with a solution here. But overall, I do not think it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Dave Veach?
Yeah, yes, I would agree. Probably putting some distance between the two spaces is an improvement under the circumstances. No, certainly not substantially more detrimental than what we previously approved.
Megan?
I think it's beautiful and I would definitely support it.
Dave Thompson?
I would definitely support it. It looks fantastic. Thank you.
Dennis?
Dennis Sullivan, that's a wonderful design. And as Mr. Riley says, it's replacing a dump, so it certainly is an improvement.
Okay, Buck?
It looks like an excellent addition to the neighborhood, and I believe several of the abutting neighbors are quite pleased with it, so I would support it.
Okay. And I certainly will support it. It's in no way detrimental in any way, shape, or form to the neighborhood. Okay. So, Paul, I don't know. What do you think about conditions on this? Do we have any right now? Do we have any right
Paul Semple, I would move to approve based on with the same conditions as we imposed at the prior
Okay.
approval.
Okay.
David Veach, second.
Sarah, could you read those conditions, please?
The previous condition imposed was all construction activity and vehicles be contained on site.
Okay. All right. So, time to vote. No conditions. Paul, could you make a motion for the vote, please?
Let me correct that. We would have the same conditions that we had in the prior
Yes.
approval. Okay.
Yes.
On that basis, I'll move to approve as submitted.
Okay.
David Veach, second.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Happy?
Happy votes yes.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Riley, and thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so we have minutes. Any comment?
We have two sets today.
Okay.
One being from July 23rd and the other being from September 10th.
This is Paul Semple. I'll move to approve both sets of minutes.
David Veach, second.
Okay. So we'll take a vote on that. Happy?
I vote yes.
Buck?
I vote yes.
Dave Veach?
Veach votes yes.
Paul Semple?
Semple votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's it. Is there any other business, Sarah?
Unless there's any public comment, but I'm not seeing anyone other than board members on the meeting at the moment. So we just need a motion to adjourn.
And the time is?
The time is 4:19 p.m.
All right, a motion to adjourn, please, Paul.
Paul Semple, I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, and this is a roll call for everybody. So everybody would vote, please. Dave? Let's see, Dave V.
Veach seconds and votes to adjourn.
Paul?
Semple votes yes.
Happy?
Votes yes.
Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Dennis?
Sullivan votes yes.
Dave Thompson?
Mr. Thompson says yes.
And I vote yes. And as a final word, I'll tell everybody, don't forget the special town meeting a week from Saturday, 1 p.m. at Veterans Field. And with that, guys, at Channel 18, thank you very much, and we're over and out.